It's FA Cup final time. It is Manchester City versus Manchester United. Which half of Manchester walks away with the FA Cup trophy on Saturday? Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Yes, it is FA Cup final time. We are talking all about the FA Cup final that's taking place on Saturday at Wembley between both halves of Manchester. The first time a Manchester derby has ever been held in the capacity of an FA Cup final at Wembley. Going forward, this is all the makings of a very intriguing and exciting game and prospect, because it's not just about the FA Cup that's on the line. There is history to be made. There is a lot of things on the line other than bragging rights, other than a trophy, and a lot of history to be played out between now and obviously in a couple of weeks' time, and obviously with the FA Cup final on Saturday. Before we go any further in talking about the FA Cup, Manchester City and Manchester United, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things always and probably greatly appreciated. And of course, encourage you to get involved in the comment section as well. I'm sure you have your own thoughts, comments, opinions. But most of all, of course, with this being a preview, predictions on how you think the FA Cup will go on Saturday. And I'm sure they'll make for interesting and great reading down below in the comment section, so do get involved down there. But without further ado, let's get on with the video, let's get on with the preview, let's talk all about the FA Cup final. First and foremost, I think it's only fair to say that when you look at the two teams on paper, Manchester City should be walking into this one as the firm favourites. They should be the Goliath in this encounter. Man United should be the David. Now, of course, that doesn't mean it's a foregone conclusion, and that City win right off the bat, and it's a foregone conclusion. But you would say that City are the favourites, nonetheless, to go on and lift the trophy come the end of the game. Obviously, the FA Cup's been built on many David versus Goliath encounters, and this seems to be not as big of a one as, say, a non-league club or a championship club or a League One or League Two club going up against the Premier League side. But, of course, one team has to be the favourite, and in my opinion, that is going to be Manchester City, who are chasing some phenomenal and incredible history. You got on the other side Manchester United that are looking to stop that history because they once done it themselves, and they're looking to stop City in their tracks of doing it. Of course, the kind of history that I'm talking about here is that City are looking to do the treble this season. They've already won the Premier League, and they completed that whilst also doing 3 on the bounce and the 3-peat. So they've already matched what United have done on a couple of occasions in the Premier League era. Their next target is the FA Cup, and then of course they've got the Champions League in a week's time. This kind of treble winning season hasn't been seen since 1999, where obviously coincidentally Manchester United were the last team to achieve that. Phenomenal achievement that was back then, and obviously this time around City are looking to kind of match that, and obviously standing in their way right now is a Manchester United side that are looking to stop that history being made, but also make some history themselves. They've already won the League Cup this season, and what has been a pretty good season, and a very good season actually for Erik ten Hag's side, to say that this is his first season in the Premier League and with Manchester United. They are looking to add the FA Cup to their collection as well in what would be a domestic double, something that Liverpool managed to achieve last season and United are looking to achieve this season. It could be a very good end to the season as well for this Manchester United side. But standing in their way, of course, is their bitter rivals, Manchester City. So not only is there bragging rights on the line in terms of a Manchester derby, not only is history and the chance to create history on the line in terms of, like I say, at the very least for Manchester City, a domestic double, or potentially a treble come obviously next week, depending on what the result is between themselves and Inter Milan in the Champions League final. But also there's the trophy as well, and then of course for United there's the history of a domestic double and a real big platform for Erik ten Hag to continue to build his Manchester United side on for future seasons to come. There's a lot riding on this, and there's a lot on the line when these two teams meet at Wembley. And like I say, it's going to make for a very, very intriguing game. Alongside that, of course, you've got Manchester City that are chasing their 7th FA Cup triumph. They are 6-time winners of this competition, and the last time that we saw them lift this trophy was in 2019 in that very, 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 very one-sided result that they picked up against Watford in the final, where Pep Guardiola's side ran out as 6-0 winners. Whilst for Manchester United, they are of course 12-time winners of the FA Cup. Their last triumph came in 2016, where Louis van Gaal took charge of this United side. United went on to win against Crystal Palace on that day, with Jesse Lingard scoring the all-important winner in extra time. I think you'll remember that day. I think Alan Pardew, when Crystal Palace took the lead, did that really strange dance, which obviously came back to haunt him and backfired massively when United managed to equalise a few minutes later, take the game into extra time, and then, like I say, Crystal Palace, Jesse Lingard went on to put Crystal Palace to the sword and obviously take home the trophy for Manchester United on that day. So it's very intriguing, this one. There's a lot of history, like I said, on the line with this one. A lot of history to be made. Obviously, United can win their 13th FA Cup. City can win their 7th. City can add this trophy to their collection this season and put it towards, hopefully for them, a treble. And United can put it towards a domestic double. So there's a lot riding on this. It's going to be a very intriguing battle ahead. And from what we've already seen this season when these two teams have locked horns, when City were at home, they put United absolutely to the sword in what was a 6-3 victory in favour of Pep Guardiola's side. But then in the reverse fixture at Old Trafford, United exacted their revenge in a 2-1 victory against City, albeit in what some would say would be controversial circumstances. The obvious Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes sort of offside goal, if you like, which is very debatable, in my opinion. Very debatable. I can see why they didn't give it. I can see why they would have given it on another day. Very debatable, in my opinion. So as team news goes, look, Manchester City, they heavily rotated the past couple of games. Obviously, the Premier League title was wrapped up by then, but they've heavily rotated, and I think they've kept the squad fresh, and it's going to be interesting to see if rotating has helped or not helped. You find that with a lot of these teams that are obviously finding themselves playing 2 to 3 games a week, pretty much, that they enjoy that because it keeps their mind going. It keeps them motivated. It keeps them keep constantly ticking over rather than having to start constantly. So it will be interesting to see if the much rotated sides that Pep Guardiola has put out in the past couple of games, when obviously the Premier League title was wrapped up, will obviously be able to come back together as a unit and turn it on. Obviously for United, their final game of the season was a dead rubber, but they were still pressing on and having to obviously go the extra mile because top 4 wasn't exactly secure in the final few games of the season. So they may have a bit more, just bit more ticking over, or maybe it could work against them, and maybe it's a bit more fatigue in the legs, and maybe they are maybe running a bit tired. But only time will tell on that one. It could work one of two ways, and it'll be interesting to see how that does work for both teams, not just one, or not just one of them, but for both teams. Obviously, for City, they've had a few injury issues themselves, as have both teams. For City, they had Ruben Diaz, Kevin De Bruyne and Jack Grealish all missing from their final day of the season. Pep Guardiola said they were missing for various small injury issues. Whether that is going to be the case again this weekend, not 100% sure. It could just be Pep Guardiola mind games, but it does seem to be the overall consensus that they will return for this massive game this weekend. But of course, with a Champions League final on the horizon, it'll be interesting to see again how Pep Guardiola tries to balance his side, and it's going to be interesting to see how he kind of approaches this, given that it's obviously Manchester United, and they were one of the few teams to obviously get one over on City this season in terms of obviously that game at Old Trafford. For United, look, there's no Lisandro Martinez. There's going to be no Anthony Martial as well. He's out for this game. And Anthony is a doubt as well. Again, whether that's mind games, whether he will be back. The overall consensus, again, is seemingly he will be fit enough to play some part in this game. And I think that United will definitely need him. I think with his energy and with his work rate on that right wing, I think he will definitely be needed in terms of that aspect. So in terms of maybe helping out the midfield and obviously springing forward on the counter-attack should the opportunity present itself. So he, I think, will be definitely needed, but whether or not he'll be fit enough for the whole game obviously remains to be seen. As far as the game plan goes for both sides, you know how City are going to approach this like they normally do. Possession-based, build-up. We know City are going to play their usual way. Pep Guardiola only has one way of playing. It'll be the three at the back that he's kind of implemented because of John Stones as a sort of false midfielder, I guess you'd say, alongside Rodri. And then you've got the likes of Kevin De Bruyne and Gundogan occupying the midfield, as well as on the left you'll probably have Grealish. On the right you'll probably see either Bernardo Silva or Riyad Mahrez, depending on which one he decides to put forward. And then of course up front, Erling Haaland, who will be looking to add to his goal tally for the season. Pretty predictable. Like I say, I think the only real selection headache he has is whether or not he plays Bernardo Silva or Riyad Mahrez. Bernardo Silva seems to be the guy that he's trusted in big games this season. You look at obviously the most recent Champions League semi-final second leg, in which Bernardo Silva played as the right winger in that game, and of course popped up with a couple of very important goals to set City on their way in that game. Maybe the same will happen again for this game. As far as what Manchester United are concerned, it's going to be tough, but obviously De Gea in goal, Wan-Bissaka at right back, Luke Shaw left back, unless he decides to play three at the back, which possibly he could do, or he could have Luke Shaw as the left-sided centre-back with Malacia as the left-back. There are a few options there. Midfield, Casemiro, obviously. Christian Eriksen, if he's fit. Fernandes, obviously. Anthony, right winger, or again, if he's fit and if he's ready and firing to go. Rashford, it's going to be interesting to see what he does with the strike force. Does he go with Rashford? Does he go with someone else? It's going to be very interesting. There's a lot more, I think, for debate when it comes to Manchester United and their team selection. I think you can pretty much predict the majority of City's, and I think there are a few that, depending on how Erik ten Hag wants to approach this game, and I think he's got to approach it how he did again in the game at Old Trafford. He's got to basically not go out and press. He's got to try and adapt his tactics more to not go out and press as much, which obviously he would want to do, but because he doesn't have the players yet, because he doesn't have I guess the right players in the right areas as of right now, and maybe some of those are injuries as well, he's got to play it a counter-attacking way. He's got to drop off, he's got to soak up some pressure, and then he's got to try and hit City where it hurts on the counter-attack. He's got to try and use the pace of the likes of Rashford and Anthony, and he's got to try and obviously use Bruno's creativity as well. And it's going to be very intriguing to see how he approaches that. In terms of a prediction, look, I don't want either side to win this trophy, to be honest, but if I had to choose one, it's going to have to be City, and then hope that Inter Milan do us a favour in the Champions League, because I don't want them to do the treble, I don't want them to get any more trophies, but it's the way that it is. So I can see United potentially winning. This is not a foregone conclusion by any means, but in my opinion, United are going to have to either take this to penalties or they're going to have to play the game of their lives. They're going to have to do everything on point. They're going to have to be absolutely solid and resolute defensively. And they're going to have to make the right decisions going forward. And they're going to have to be clinical and have a killer instinct up front, especially when they're on the counter-attack. So in that way, they could potentially win. Otherwise, I can only see them winning by taking it to a penalty shootout, and then it's the lottery of a penalty shootout. Not that David De Gea is notorious for his penalty saves, but hey, anything can happen in an FA Cup final. But for me, there's only one winner in this, and that's Manchester City. I see them being dominant. I see them being ruthless. Like I say, the only thing that I am a bit worried about for them is the rotation that Pep Guardiola's managed to implement on this team for the past couple of weeks. Does that have an effect on this team going forward? Will they be a bit rusty? Will they be a bit lackluster, to say the least? And maybe United could take advantage, possibly. But with the way that Guardiola keeps his side motivated, particularly at the business end of the season, in which they've seemingly shifted through the gears, so to speak, to be the relentless and ruthless machine that we've seen from them in the run-in to the end of the season, I would say that they are going to just get back and seemingly take to it like a duck to water and just get back to business, so to speak. I think like the big players are just going to step up once again. Kevin De Bruyne in that midfield, Rodri, Gundogan, obviously the likes of Grealish and Foden, whoever decides to put on that left-hand side, Mahrez, Bernardo Silva especially, the man for the big occasion, and of course the absolute alien or absolute goal-scoring machine, whichever way you want to put it, in Erling Haaland, will of course have a big say in this game. And I think that overall City's attack will be too hot for United to handle. And I think defensively, although City can be vulnerable at times, their defence can be quite open. Their goalkeeper doesn't exactly, I'm not entirely convinced and never have been entirely convinced by Ederson. I think City can outscore United. And that is why I'm going to say that City go on and win this game. City go on and lift the FA Cup. And City go on to add the FA Cup to their trophy collection for this season. And I'm going to say that City win this game by 3-1. 3-1 in favour of Manchester City. City go on and lift the FA Cup. Pep Guardiola adds another FA Cup winners' medal to his collection. But those are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, but most of all, of course, predictions of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of the FA Cup final, the FA Cup this season, the competition, and the final on Saturday? Who do you see winning? Will it be the blue half of Manchester or the red half? I want to know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, but most of all, of course, your predictions on Saturday's FA Cup final down below in the comment section, because I'm sure it'll make for interesting reading. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way up, enjoy the video, subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things will always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I will see you all again soon in another video.